So I remember like we would always take stuff apart. Like we had walkie-talkies, we were taking stuff apart. There's a tape recorder. We're always trying to figure stuff out. And I know you were good with the wiring, electronics, and things like alarm systems, radio, putting stereos in. And we were just talking about what it took for you to put a TV in your first truck. You know, when it wasn't the thing to do. I mean, now TVs in the headrest and all these other monitors. That's commonplace. But
right.
I mean, you're doing that stuff cutting edge. So I don't know if you want to go into a little bit about that, or a little bit more of your career path, like how, a little preview here, but you kind of talked about how you got so deep into the car industry that you were almost losing your hands on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, wherever you want to go with that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I started, at a high school. I started in car stereo.
Mm-hmm.
I had this love for music and audio, and I wanted to, I wanted a nice stereo in my car. So I started to look into it, and I did the research, back then. And back then it was, go to Crazy Eddie and get the pamphlet,
Mm-hmm.
For Kenwood car stereo, and thumb through it and figure out, what you wanted to do, and try and match it to speakers. And so, I installed my car, an elaborate car stereo in one of my first cars, and then I was like, I dig this. I want to do this. This is, this is interesting to me. So I went to the car stereo shop, which still exists,
Mm-hmm.
right down the road from where we are right now.
Okay.
And that guy, who I owe a debt of gratitude to, gave me my start. Bruce McDonald is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got started in car stereo. And just gave me a shot. Saw what I had. Says, all right. Maybe he says, all right, this guy has got half a clue. We'll give him a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Started in car stereo, and worked there for a few years. And obviously everybody wants to better themselves. And I saw another opportunity. Dating myself here, but then I started installing mobile phones in cars.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mobile phones.
Yeah.
In the car.
In the car.
And you're a big Willie. You had a phone in the car. Boy.
Yeah, you were somebody. You were somebody.
$1 a minute or something like that.
Right. You were somebody if you had a car phone.
Yeah.
So I went to a company that was doing mobile phone installations in cars, and at the time that was a process.
Yeah.
That was a few hours on each car to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I always looking to do something else, do better, do more. Got wind of a opportunity that was coming up, that Sony was building a technical center, and they were looking, they were looking for people, and Sony was in North Jersey at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they were building this technical center, and I kind of got wind of what was happening and what was going on, and as it turns out, it's always not what you know, it's who you know.
Mm-hmm.
With anything, and I believe that in any industry. But it turns out I knew somebody who knew somebody, and I got a contact.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to this guy, and that was before email.
Yeah.
That was phone. That was voicemail after voicemail after voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a hold of this guy who was in charge of the project, and was able to make it happen and get it on the ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the early 90s. That's when car stereo just started to boom.
Yeah, and that's like when Crutch Wheels coming out, right?
Right,
Stuff like that. People were like, oh, we don't have to just stay with the factory radio. Now we can upgrade this a little bit.
Right. So I got into that, and I really got a chance to be a part custom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, work with fiberglass and paints and, you know, mold plastics and work with new products and do these big systems. And again, that's where, you know, that's when car videos started to, you know, come of age. I mean, at that point, we're still talking about 8mm VHS.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, this is pre-DVD.
Right.
And in the shop that I was in, I was the installer, and then there was a senior installer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this guy was a heavy hitter. You know, this guy knew his stuff. This guy had years of experience on me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I got to learn, you know, all of these techniques from him. You know, I got to know how to work with wood, fiberglass, and you know, see all of these, these wiring techniques, and you know, so that gave me the opportunity to learn this stuff and work with, you know, people in the industry. You know, going to CES every year, you know, seeing that, and you know, that's
new stuff coming
you
out.
know, that's the new stuff, and that's the Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
you know, of electronics.
Right. Correct.
You know, so everybody in the car world who's in the car stereo and electronics game is bringing their A game to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you get to see that, and you know, the new techniques and the new trends, and you know, and you get to, you know, and you know, you meet people and you talk to people, and you know, you come back with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great learning experience for me. You know, and then, you know, that I think at that point, for me it was, you know, it was an awesome experience to learn from people like that. You know, but I think at that point I was a little young for the corporate world. Maybe I was a little too young. And you know, I guess I couldn't process the politics involved, and you know, kind of got soured on it, you know, from that aspect. And then I went back into, you know, retail car stereo. But that was good for me because I had some skills now.
Yeah.
You know, I had some fabrication skills.
Yeah.
You know, so that worked for me in that aspect. And then I bounced around in retail car audio for, you know, probably another 10 years or so. And then you know, and I all the while in the background I had a thing for motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
Custom bikes, more specifically, you know, V-twins, custom V-twins. You know, so that scene, you know, that scene was, I was involved in, I was hooked into that scene as a hobby.
Okay.
You know, and I started spending more time around that. And you know, what I did was I took my electrical knowledge and I was able to apply that to the custom motorcycle thing. You know, and I knew some guys, and you know, I had some, obviously some wiring ability and troubleshooting ability.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was like, let me wire that bike.
Yeah, and I know you were always, like I said, you were always clean. Your stuff was always clean, man. Nothing sticking out.
Right.
And I know you use some innovative ways of wiring and, you know, like make stuff look really good or not seen at all.
Yeah, and that's a big thing on custom motorcycles.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, a custom motorcycle should look like it doesn't run.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I was able to to bring that in and kind of, you know, wedge my way into that industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was around at the right time when the whole, you know, motorcycle thing started to really blow up.
Mm-hmm.
With, you know, the Discovery Channel and stuff like that. And you know, I was right in the middle of that with all the biker build-offs.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and that's when, everybody wanted a custom motorcycle,
Mhm.
I was doing it part-time with friends of mine, in their garages, and then, they decided to make it a full-time thing and open a shop, and, I was right there, so my eye for color and balance and all things custom, could apply. I could apply that, into the motorcycle thing. So for probably, 8 or 10 years or so, in different capacities, part-time and full-time, I was in on the bike scene, hard and heavy. At one point I was working full-time on custom bikes.
And I saw a couple pictures of some of the bikes that you did. So this is one of those insert pick here. If you got some of the pictures of some
Absolutely.
of those, I forgot which one it was. It was
Absolutely.
kind of like a rust colored kind of like bike, but
Yeah,
you probably
yeah.
did like several ones. So
Yeah.
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I was like, oh, Greg's doing bikes too. All right, let's see what you're doing over here.
But so it was, it wasn't just the electrical aspect of it. For a time there, I was, I had my hand in, several custom, bikes from the ground up.
Gotcha.
And then, that started to, the bubble started to burst, on the custom bike scene, and that started to kind of go away, and that's when they say one door closes, another one opens, and that's when the opportunity started to come about for the BMW Mini thing, and we'll circle it right back around to it's not what you know, it's who you know. The BMW Mini thing became a reality because of somebody I knew, somebody whom I worked with at Sony. He had gone on to work for BMW in North America, and he was the hiring manager for a position I was going after, in BMW North America, and that gentleman was he was the head of accessory development for BMW North America, and it started out as a temporary gig. He made me no promises. We had history, so he knew my background. He knew I was a hands-on guy, and he said, "Listen, this is what we got here. We got a year contract. We're doing product development for Mini accessories in the U.S.
and what your role will be is to help get product, accessory product off the ground for minis in the United States."
That's huge.
And it was a great experience. It was it was form, fit, and function basically. And basically what it boiled down to was validating products for cars in the U.S. because cars, although they look the same, whether it's a Ford or a BMW or a Dodge, they vary very ever so slightly or significantly in other parts of the world.
Gotcha.
Especially electronically. So it was validating. It was validating accessories that were already produced on U.S. cars. Do they work? Do they function as intended? Do they even fit in American cars? Because they're designed in Europe.
Right.
Do they even fit in American cars? Do they work with the American car software? Do they interface with the car? are they, are they a fit for the U.S. market? Is this product a good product for the U.S. market, or is this only a European thing, or is this something only the Japanese would use? So we kind of picked from the tree and, decided what was good for the U.S. market. So you get to work with, products that nobody's seen yet. You got your hands on cars that nobody's seen yet.
Yeah.
You're driving prototype vehicles that aren't
all masked up and everything, so no one can even tell what it is.
Knowledge.
Right.
So
there's no reference then. I mean, there's no way you can say, hey, I need something for this or that, or sometimes do you have like an NDA or something like that, like a non-disclosure,
yes.
You can't even talk about it,
yes,
right?
Yes, you can't, this car can't be in certain areas.
Yeah, so that's gotta be hard.
I got to work with, I got to work with, some cool products, and there again, I worked with some guys, who were, seniors, to me in the business, and, I got to be on the engineering side and see the engineering side of automobile manufacturing. And I learned a lot there too. I worked with some, with some good guys, who were in the company forever, and learned a ton of stuff from them. And I got to work with, I got to do some cool stuff too. We had a race program for Mini that we were developing. Quite simply, they wanted to bring racing parts into the accessory market for minis. So, I got to build a mini race car.
Nice.
Put a roll cage in it, put a fire system in it, put big brakes on it. And I got to drive it. I got to spend a day at Pocono Raceway with myself and two other drivers. And validate these parts.
That's awesome.
On the track.
Yeah.
So having to be able to drive these pre-production cars, you needed, in the eyes of, BMW AG, you needed to drive certain pre-production vehicles, M vehicles and Rolls-Royce and some of these upper echelon cars. You needed a certain level of driving experience to have access to those cars in the United States. So if I had to test on an M car, in their system, I needed to be a certain level of driver. And in order to be a certain level of driver, you got to go to driving school. So they send me to the BMW Performance Center in South Carolina.
Oh my
I
goodness.
spent 3 days on the track, doing collision avoidance testing and skid pad.
Wow.
On a skid pad
That's cool.
And ABS testing and all that, and that was it benefited me in my job, but it was also a great experience getting to learn about ABS and collision avoidance in a controlled environment.
Yeah, and that stuff the average Joe's not gonna get to do. So yeah, that's good
learn
stuff.
a lot,
I've got track experience. I've been on a track. I've been on Lime Rock Raceway. I've been on
And you got paid for
and I
it.
got paid.
And that makes it even better.
Yeah.
And and going back to what you said about what you were doing. So I'm restoring an Acura Legend right now.
Okay.
And there's no aftermarket support for these cars.
Right.
Great cars, but that means
Right.
you want to put coilovers, you want to do this and that, change out flywheels,
You
whatever.
gotta make something happen.
Yeah, it's not there. So to be able to be in a position to do that for Cooper, Mini Cooper and stuff like that, so that they have this aftermarket support so that average guy can go and get bigger brake kits and do all that stuff. I mean, that's amazing. And I have a huge respect for people who support their vehicles in that regard. So I mean, I think that's awesome that you were being able to be a part of that, because I wish they had that something for the Acura Legend group. Now there are some people who are out there making parts now, but that goes into being in group buys, you know, you gotta get, you know,
Yes.
X amount of people committed
Yes.
to do it, then you gotta wait for the machine time, and you know, and so these are months and months and months, and when you're building a car or restoring a car, this is taking some time, right?
Yeah,
This is not,
yeah.
something that's gonna happen overnight, so, you know, when I hear stuff about aftermarket support, to me, it kinda makes me a little giddy, because, you know, hey, you guys got support, you don't have to go through what, you know, everybody
Right.
else is going through.
What I learned, you know, what I learned, you know, not so much with that experience, just learned over the years is that, you know, you and I, you know, this is our world, okay? You know, the car world and the aftermarket thing and the custom thing, you know, this is our world, so we're immersed in it, you know? And to us, being in it, we think it's huge.
Mhm.
It's not.
Right.
You know, it's a very small, you know, it's a very small niche. I mean, it's not, you know, we're the minority.
Mhm.
You know, most people, they're happy that, you know, their phone pairs, you know, with their car.
Right, right.
You know, automatically. You know, so you know when you're into the scene and it's your world, it's huge.
Mhm.
You know, but it's not. You know, it's a small, you know, it's a small niche, and you know we're not mass production.
Right.
You know, that Lighten flywheel. Oh man, that Lighten flywheels. That's a lot of money.
Mhm.
You know, how can they charge that kind of money for it? Well, how many are they making?
Mhm.
You know, they're making a handful of them. You know, they're not putting them in every Ford Flex
Right,
that
right.
rolls off the line. You know,
Right.
it's a production is prices are based on volume.
Right.
You know, when you're making a handful of stuff, one pallet of stuff for a bunch of guys who are building stuff in their garages, that gets expensive.
Right.
You know, I try to remind guys of that all the time. They're like, oh, how can they charge that kind of, how can they charge that kind of money for those wheels?
Mhm.
Because they're not going on every, they're not going on every Honda Civic that
That's
rolls
right.
off the line.
That's right.
You know, you're losing sight of, of where you are. You know, that wheel is $480 a piece because they're making a handful of them.
Right. Right.
You know.
Yeah, and that whole process. So, so now like you've seen a lot of stuff in your time, and I'm playing with this thing, and who knows how that's gonna look. Hey, we're doing this on the fly.
It's all good.
But you've seen a lot of this stuff from the inside, and some of these people don't understand. Like that thing's coming from a block of steel, and
Right.
all this other stuff. And now they got stuff like hydro cut,
Yes.
and all these different powdered
Right,
coating,
3D printing.
3D printing. So how do you feel seeing all that, these kind of changes? I mean, you come from the old school, man. I mean, you were learning to wire stuff, and you're getting this experience from the guys ahead of you, right?
Right.
And now you're looking at people who may just be coming in the industry, just like we talked about earlier. These kids are growing up with technology, like
Right.
they didn't know the days of rolling metal and doing all this other stuff, fabrication, right? So how do you feel like? How do you see the car industry is now and where it's moving? Are you excited about it, or are you pissed off because now the stuff is coming out later? How do you feel about that?
I love it. I think the trickle down effect from technology is it makes it more attainable, and things get things become more attainable and cheaper because it already exists in the automotive industry, and in the mainstream, with Ford and GM and Nissan and Toyota and all of that. They're using those. By the time we get it, by the time it gets to us on the aftermarket end, and for the hot rod guys and the custom guys, by the time we get it, the technology is cheap, is affordable.
Right.
I mean, it's still expensive, because you've got that. We're back to that small quantity thing again.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's there and it's attainable. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I mean, I see guys, just with the benefit of computer-aided design, and I see, some of these hot rod guys are, building, building hubs and brake calipers and braking systems, in the custom arena, that, 5 years ago it was just a dream.
A dream, right? Yeah, exactly.
The computer, the technology, the CNC, the CNC technology and the CAD, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
The computer-aided design,
So they're not even doing like clay anymore, right?
No,
It's almost like
no.
It's in the box,
You know
right?
what I mean?
As they would call it.
Look at how fast, with computer-aided design, look at how fast a complete car can be developed.
Mhm.
It can be thought of, designed, developed, and crash tested in
Months.
in months.
Yeah.
In months, whereas 30 years ago,
Years.
you had a platform that lasted 20 years. Now the average life of a platform is 7 years. That's going back to my automotive, my manufacturer experience. So I mean they can just with the benefit of technology, they can just crank this stuff out and push it into production.
Mhm.
And kind of almost bypass so much of the legwork, so to speak. And that benefits us, because as the technology gets cheaper, that light and flywheel gets cheaper, that custom seat gets cheaper, that wheel gets cheaper. I mean, again, it's still expensive, but it's not, it's not 3 guys in an industrial park in California, making, 2 sets a day.
Yeah.
It's exciting, and I think, with the benefit of technology and the internet, I mean, we see so much more.
Mhm.
We see so much more about what guys are doing and techniques they're doing and stuff they're building, and it's a great time for the aftermarket and the automobile, I think, but again, it's a small, it's a niche, it's my world.
Mhm.
It's the custom thing is my world, and I'm in it. I'm in the middle of it. It's my universe. You gotta ground yourself every once in a while and realize that you and I know who Chip Foose is, and you and I know who Boyd Coddington is. But those are household names to you and I.
Right.
But to the rest of the world,
Who's that?
who's
right?
that guy? Yeah, I think I've seen his name on a car care product at Walmart once or twice.
Without the backstory. Yeah, so we're gonna take a break real quick. I know we've been going for a minute. We're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about your transition, getting back into more hands-on stuff and some of the stuff that you're working on right now.
Okay.